The top stories tonight in Y News. President Rodrigo Duterte to address the Philippine nation from Davao City on Tuesday night.
National Capital Region to return to stricter quarantine measures if COVID-19 situation worsens according to Malacanang.
MRT3 temporary closes beginning tomorrow due to an increasing number of train personnel who have fallen ill with COVID-19. Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno saddened as 3 Manila City officials are inflicted with COVID-19.
A government inquiry launched in New Zealand to uncover who leaked details of 18 COVID-19 cases and why.
The border between Australia's two most populous states closes for the first time in 100 years. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, July 6, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the globe. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, Malacanang says President Rodrigo Duterte will address the nation from Davao City tomorrow night. The chief executive traveled back to Mindanao last Friday to talk to the military troops and top police officers about the Jolo shooting incident which killed 4 army soldiers. The president is expected to update the nation on the government's COVID-19 response after the record high 200,400 plus one-day COVID-19 cases yesterday.
Pero ang sabi nga po ng economic managers, and they have gone public, we cannot afford another complete lockdown. Kaya nga po, panawagan natin, labanan po natin yung COVID-19 sa pamamagitan ng nakikita nyo sa entablado po natin ngayon. No? Now, kailan po ang susunod na mensahe ng ating presidente? Bukas po, galing sa syudad ng Davao.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says Metro Manila might return to stricter quarantine restrictions. Our Malacanang correspondent Rosa Licos explains why.
Malacanang is saddened by the record high 2,434 additional COVID-19 cases in the country yesterday, July 5. Most of these cases are in Metro Manila. Now, according to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, Metro Manila might return to stricter quarantine restrictions if the situation worsened.
Pag lumala talaga at mawalan tayo ng critical care capacity o di kaya yung kanyang case doubling rate ay bumalik uli sa dati na napakabilis, wala po tayong alternatibo, pero yun nga po ang ating pinapakiusap sa ating kababayan. Pag tayo po ay bumalik sa mas strictong quarantine, baka wala na po tayong hanap buhay na po pwedeng gawin.
The Department of Health said the surge in new coronavirus cases is the result of increased physical contact among people after the easing up of community quarantine measures. But according to the palace official, the government has no choice but to balance the issue of economy and health since most of the new cases are asymptomatic or mild cases. He adds that economic managers insist the Philippine economy cannot afford another complete lockdown.
Wala naman tayong alternatibo kung hindi magbukas po talaga ng ekonomiya. Kung hindi pa po natin mabubuksan, baka mamaya buhay nga tayo, mamamatay naman tayo dahil wala tayong hanap buhay. No?
Meanwhile, the palace denies reports of NCR hospital beds shortage because of the increase in COVID-19 cases. Roque reports as of July 6, 2020, the critical care utilization in Metro Manila is 63%, which is at moderate risk level. Secretary Roque clarifies many hospitals have not reached their 30% hospital bed capacity for coronavirus disease.
Linilinaw po namin na yung mga kumakalat na fake news na ubos na raw po ang mga hospital beds ng ating mga hospital, hindi po yan totoo.
Also, the Duterte administration designates Health Undersecretary Leopoldo Vega as Chief of the Hospital 1 Incident Command. This means he will be the point person in determining the critical care utilization and hospital care and capacity in the country. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Navotas City recorded its highest tally daily cases of COVID-19 yesterday with 38 new patients. Now, the city government places one of its barangay halls on lockdown. Ray Pelayo details why.
Of the nearly 700 cases of coronavirus infection in Navotas City, 50 have been recorded in Barangay NBBS Dagat-Dagatan as of Sunday. Now its barangay hall is under lockdown, including the 15-meter radius of residential area surrounding the barangay hall. Of those 50 cases positive for COVID-19 in NBBS Dagat-Dagatan, 6 are barangay personnel. According to Mayor Toby Chanco, of the 676 confirmed coronavirus cases, 85% are asymptomatic.
Wala silang sipon, wala silang ubo, wala silang lagnat. Hindi sila nahihirapang huminga. Yan po ang problema sa COVID-19. Kaya't madami tayong kaso na magkakapamilya o magkakasama sa trabaho.
The Navotas City government has so far conducted more than 6,000 swab tests among residents. Mayor Chanco advises his constituents to postpone the family visits, especially if they are senior citizens, to avoid contracting the disease. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health is strictly monitoring the top 6 areas in the country with a spike in COVID-19 cases. The DOH also confirms that the use of a combination of 2 anti-HIV drugs in COVID-19 patients has stopped. Isko Miguel has the details why.
There was an increase in COVID-19 cases in the country in the past week. Now, according to the Health Department, they are closely monitoring 6 areas in the country with high numbers of COVID-19 reports. These areas are Quezon City and Manila City in the National Capital Region, and Cebu Province, Cebu City, Lapu-Lapu City, and Mandaue City in Central Visayas.
These are the top 6 na tinitignan natin that for this past week nakakapagtala tayo ng maraming kaso. But of course, there are still other areas that we are strictly monitoring because dati walang kaso tapos nagkaroon.
The DOH also reported today there are barangays in Cebu City and in Metro Manila with clustering of cases. That means there is a spread of the deadly disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 going on.
Sa Cebu City, we have 64 barangays na found to have clusters. Sa National Capital Region, meron tayong 314 barangays. Dito sa National Capital Region, reported to have these clusters of cases.
Health officials are also closely monitoring public transport where there are greater chances of transmission of the new coronavirus due to contact and interaction among people. This is why the public is advised to be extra careful when outdoors.
We also have identified 3 closed settings dito sa National Capital Region, kasama dyan yung sa MRT na binabantayan natin sa ngayon. So, yun pa rin, no? Ang sabi nga natin, the basic rule in a quarantine, no? Kapag ikaw ay kahit anong level pa ng quarantine yan, ang basic principle natin, naka-quarantine tayo, so kung wala kang kailangan gawin sa labas, huwag kang lumabas ng bahay, you stay at home. Second would be, hindi dapat tayo nagka-travel beyond, no? Dun sa pupuntahan natin. You don't go to those areas with identified community transmissions.
Also, the DOH confirms that the Philippines has stopped the use of the drug combination lopinavir and ritonavir, which is used in treating HIV infections. This move comes after the World Health Organization's order because WHO says there are no benefits seen in COVID-19 patients' conditions or in reducing COVID-19 death cases after using the drug combination. In the Philippines, 85 patients have been administered with the drug combination.
Nakita nila na pareho ang hydroxychloroquine and itong ritonavir and lopinavir, hindi talaga sila nakakapagbigay ng additional or positive effect dun sa mga mortality ng mga taong may COVID-19. So, That's why they have decided na itigil na lang because there are also adverse effects or side effects. Itong mga gamot, we will be stopping ito dun sa mga pasyente natin dito sa country. No? So for those who are willing to still continue, no, nakapag-umpisa na kasi, tatapusin na lang yung dose nila for this medicines. But hydroxychloroquine, itigil na natin yan early on kasi nauna siyang nabigyan ng recommendation na ganito.
Meanwhile, 213 patients in the country are participating in the Solidarity Trial for Remdesivir. WHO has earlier said the results of drug trials for potential cure for COVID-19 will be released in the coming days. Isko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the country's Department of Health has identified 9 provinces in Mindanao as emerging COVID-19 hotspots. These are the provinces of Bukidnon, Lanao del Norte, and Misamis Occidental in northern Mindanao, Davao del Norte, Davao del Sur, and Davao City in Davao Region, South Cotabato and Sultan Kudarat in SolGen, and Maguindanao in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. According to the DOH, the sudden rise in COVID-19 cases in the 9 areas is puzzling, but data show that most of the reported cases are locally stranded individuals and returning overseas Filipinos. Local governments are beefing up their efforts in monitoring the COVID-19 situation and in fighting the further spread of the disease in the 9 provinces. And let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached a total of more than 11.4 million confirmed cases in 188 countries, regions, and sovereignty. Though of those numbers, more than 2.9 million are from Latin America. The fast-spreading disease has claimed over 534,000 lives, while nearly 6.2 million patients across the globe have recovered from the new coronavirus infection. Thanks be to God.
We would like to correct the number of COVID-19 cases recorded yesterday that was earlier mentioned on our first news. It is not 200,400, but 2,400 new COVID-19 cases as of July 5. Meanwhile, the country's Department of Health says that 2,099 additional cases were reported today, including 1,258 fresh ones and 841 late reported. That raises the total confirmed cases of coronavirus infection in the Philippines to 46,333. That is as of 4 p.m. today. Of the nearly 3,000 new cases, 998 are from the National Capital Region and 466 are from Central Visayas. We have lost 6 more patients today, but through our fervent prayers, medical interventions, and sacrifices of our medical frontliners, 243 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to 12,185. Thanks be to God.
Manila City Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno said that today is one of the saddest moments of the city government. Dante Amento explains why.
Manila City Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno disclosed this morning that 3 city officials are infected with the new coronavirus. 2 are department heads and the other is a city councilor.
Today is one of the saddest moments of our city government because 3 of our key officials in the city of Manila is positively infected by COVID-19.
Mayor Dumagoso also admitted he and Vice Mayor Maria Sheila Hani Lacuna Pangan and the other city employees had been exposed to 3 COVID-19 positive officials. But based on their swab test results, Manila City's top 2 leaders remain COVID-19 free.
Kaya nyo kami nakikita ni Vice Mayor dito ngayon at kasama ninyo, bagay na pinagpapasalamat ko sa Diyos, kami po ay nag-negative sa swab testing. This is now my 3rd time of being exposed to such deadly virus.
All city employees and department heads underwent mandatory rapid testing this morning. Contact tracing continues for those who had directly interacted with the 3 city officials. Meanwhile, 172 residents in the 31 barangays placed under lockdown this weekend tested positive in the COVID-19 rapid testing. They will undergo the confirmatory test through swabbing. The Manila Barangay Bureau says that other barangays will be also put on lockdown based on assessment.
Possible mangyari kasi ang aming Manila Health Department, meron silang tinitignan certain numbers kung kailangan nang i-lockdown yung barangay.
260 violators were apprehended during the 2-day lockdown in 31 barangays. They are facing violations under Article 151 of the Revised Penal Code or disobedience. Dantiamento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Health, or DOH, clarifies that when hospitals declare full bed capacity for COVID-19 patients, it does not mean the hospital's capacity is already overwhelmed. Isko Miguel tells us why.
Last Saturday, Chinese General Hospital issued a statement they are in their full capacity and will no longer accept COVID-19 patients. In the hospital statements, the administration also said they will no longer accept walk-in suspected cases of COVID-19. Instead, those walk-ins are advised to go to other hospitals. But according to the DOH, if a hospital declares a full capacity, it does not mean that its entire health system is overwhelmed of COVID-19 cases. The DOH also explained it is stated in their Administrative Order number 2020-0016 that 30% of the hospital's bed capacity should be allotted to COVID-19 cases. Currently, not all government hospitals have reached their full capacity.
Wala pa naman na talagang shortage. Although nandun sila dun sa mga moderate risk na level nitong critical care resources nila.
According to the DOH, not all hospitals have complied to allot their 30% bed capacity.
Hindi lahat nakakapag-comply sa 30% na allocation dapat ng beds for COVID. So, kailangan namin silang kausap. If they say 100% sila, this will be based on the number of beds that they have allocated para dito sa COVID and not the entire hospital.
The DOH had a meeting with hospitals this morning, and according to their update this afternoon, 10 other hospitals aside from the CGH have declared they have reached their 100% dedicated bed capacity for COVID-19 cases, while 3 other hospitals have declared they are almost 90 and 100% full of their bed capacity. Meanwhile, based on the DOH data drop, 39.71% of the isolation beds are occupied, 42.91% of the ward beds, 41.34% of the ICU beds, and 25.72% of the mechanical ventilators in hospitals are already in use nationwide.
So marami pa, meron pa rin naman tayong nakikita na room kung sakaling tumaas pa yung mga kaso natin.
The DOH reminds the public that hospitals will not be overwhelmed if transmission of COVID-19 is prevented, and this can be done when people are more responsible in observing health standards. Isko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Chinese General Hospital has sent a clarificatory message to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III this afternoon regarding a previously issued memo shared on its social media account. Medical Director Samuel Ang said the full capacity they were referring to was the 30% bed allocation for COVID-19 positive patients and not the full capacity of the entire hospital. Director Ang adds in the message they are admitting more COVID-19 cases with mild symptoms because they have their own PCR testing capacity with their own molecular lab. The CGH would also want to reserve their COVID-19 wards for those with more symptomatic patients who need immediate medical care. The CGH also said they have not mentioned in their memo that they have arrangements with the Philippine General Hospital, San Lazaro Hospital, and other quarantine facilities to accept their patients. The CGH administration says they have been accepting non-COVID-19 patients as they have a realignment of their healthcare workers.
Traffic law enforcers no longer allow traditional public utility jeepneys to operate without a QR code on their windshields. Also today, IACT apprehended 5 traditional jeepney drivers in Malabon City. Find out why from Asher Kadapan Jr.
Traditional public utility jeepneys or PUJs have been allowed to resume their operation without special permit, but they should have corresponding QR codes posted on their windshields. Legitimate PUJ operators with roadworthy jeepney units approved to operate may download the QR codes for free from the website and social media account of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB. Traffic law enforcers have been tasked to apprehend violators of the new system.
I-check namin yung QR code ngayon ng LTFRB. Na-download na nila. So ayan, naka-display na ngayon sa jeep. Plus yung protocol natin, social distancing, yung thermo-scanner, plus yung face mask.
Despite being allowed back on the roads and the new system, some drivers are hesitant to operate because aside from the threat of COVID-19, there are only a few passengers.
Marami kami dito mga driver, yun namin sa Facebook, para kumalat na alam na mga pasahero na sumakay na dito, na mayroon ng jeep bumabiyahe.
While passengers carry the burden of the long wait for the jeepney's dispatch.
Medyo matagal po kasi kailangan din maghintay ng mga pasahero.
Other jeepney drivers who have yet to receive their QR codes patiently wait.
Antay lang kami pag naibigay ng chairman namin yung QR code namin.
According to an official of a Jeepney Operator Driver Association in Quezon City, there are about 100 jeepneys designated in their route and about 80 of them have their QR codes already with them.
Mangilan-ilan lang po ang wala pa. Yung iba po kasi inaantay hanggang ngayong hapon. Pero lalabas naman daw po yun.
Meanwhile, the Interagency Council for Traffic or IACT apprehended 5 drivers of traditional jeepney during the random inspection in Malabon City today. The 5 drivers have their QR codes which certify their vehicles are roadworthy, but IACT says their jeepneys have either worn tires or broken taillight.
Basta nag-comply lang siguro sila na makakuha ng QR code and then yung sakin naman, di naman nila chinek.
IACT reminds PUJ operators and drivers that not only are QR codes required, but also maintaining their vehicles roadworthy. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Jagon William, we are on board the UNTV radio mobile booth and we are here in EDSA Kamuning in Quezon City. Let's take a look at the situation on the road. So far, here in our area, we have a light to at times moderate situation along the northbound lane of EDSA from vehicles coming from Cubao going to Quezon Avenue to North Avenue. Meanwhile, we also have a light traffic situation on the other side of the road along EDSA southbound lane from vehicles coming from North and Quezon Avenue going to Cubao and Ortigas. And for our weather update. The easterlies are affecting parts of the country. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says the weather condition is affecting the eastern sections of Visayas and Mindanao. Meanwhile, Metro Manila and the rest of the country may experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers, mostly in the afternoon or evening, due to the easterlies or localized thunderstorms. Possible flash floods or landslides may occur during severe thunderstorms. No tropical cyclone advisory is issued. Power distributor Meralco announces it will extend waiving the convenience fee on its online payment application until the end of the General Community Quarantine or GCQ. This was the response of Meralco in today's Senate Committee on Energy hearing after some senators appealed to further waive the payment fee to encourage its customers to pay online with the growing cases of COVID-19 in the country. Currently, Meralco customers who choose to settle their electric bills via the Meralco online app has to pay a convenience fee worth 47 pesos for the company's payment gateway provider, PayMaya. In May, Meralco has waived and refunded the convenience fee during the ECQ period, but resumed during the GCQ period.
We will extend the waiver of the convenience fee for the entire duration of the GCQ. So until GCQ is terminated or moves to the new normal, if you will, we will spare the consumer the cost of the convenience fee.
Meralco says they are now looking for a new online gateway provider that could charge a lower fee amid the current situation. It adds they are also looking into having its own platform and not to rely to a third-party application. However, the distribution utility assures they have no intention to pass on another third-party app fee to customers. On the other hand, Meralco has apologized to the confusion caused by the bill shock among its customers. This was after Committee on Energy Chairperson Senator Sherwin Gatchalian pointed out that the electric bills did not explain the adjustments made on the estimated and actual readings. The senator says his office received over 100 complaints from customers from Meralco regarding their bills.
Nowhere in the bill that was explained. Itong nyo na lang doon sa previous reading yun na hindi naka-breakdown. So I want to find out kung adjusted na yun. You expect me to just blindly trust Meralco? Isa lang ako ha. We're talking about 6.5 million Meralco consumers.
No, sir. I think it is our obligation and responsibility to educate and inform our customers on how their bill was properly computed.
According to the Energy Regulatory Commission or ERC, Meralco failed to follow its advisory, ordering them to specify in its electric bills the breakdown of estimated and the actual reading computations of customers. ERC Chairperson Agnes De Vanadera says they also instructed the distribution utilities to send out a separate billing for the monthly installments. The Commission also bared that it has received around 47,000 complaints from customers of different distribution utilities.
Ang violation is clearly on the advisory because we spelled out the details in the advisory on how billing should be done. Penalty-wise, ayoko naman nung i-telegraph na masasaran kayo, hindi ho ganon. We are evaluating right now.
For its part, Meralco says they will send out clarificatory letters to each customer to explain the adjustments made in their billings. Meralco CEO and President Ray Espinosa adds they will hire more call center agents to immediately address concerns from their customers.
There has been basically a failure on our part to clarify to our customers what is actual and what is estimated. So, and that I wish to apologize to you and to all similarly situated customers. It is not Meralco's business to charge our customers beyond what they've actually consumed.
Meralco adds consumers who wish to avail of the monthly installments but already paid in full may get a refund from their business offices.
The Cavite provincial government will begin to impose alcohol breath analyzer tests next month. Persons walking in the streets and who are on board vehicles across the province will be tested. The aim is to prevent any person under the influence of alcohol from the street.
Kahit naglalakad lang, kung naglalakad po kayo at kayo ay nakainom, kayo po ay automatic na may fine. Kung kayo po ay nagmamaneho, automatic po na kayo ay kulong. Kung kayo ay nag-violate ng curfew at kayo ay nakainom, ayun po ay mas mabigat at mas mahal ang hatol na parusa para sa inyo.
Governor John Vic Remulla added that although the province is now under a more relaxed community quarantine, the modified General Community Quarantine or MGCQ, curfew, checkpoint, and police visibility will continue. The 24-hour liquor ban is still imposed in Davao City despite relaxing to modified general quarantine or MGCQ. Because of this, many sellers have shifted to selling alcoholic drinks online. This brings Davao City's vices Regulation Unit to monitor those online sellers of alcoholic beverages. According to Davao City's Vices Regulation Unit, any manner of selling alcoholic beverages is prohibited under the liquor ban, including online selling. A fine of 3,000 to 5,000 pesos faces violators. Online sellers of cigarettes are also being monitored. Although no specific law prohibits cigarette selling, the agency clarifies that a permit from the Business Bureau is still required. The agency also reminds sellers to be responsible and not sell prohibited products to minors. And in other news, the OST PHIVOLCS raises the alert level of Bulusan volcano in Sorsogon province to alert level 1. According to the Bulusan volcano bulletin issued at 4 p.m. today, alert level 1 means the volcano is currently in an abnormal condition. The OST PHIVOLCS reminds local government and the public that entry into the 4-kilometer radius permanent danger zone is strictly prohibited. Vigilance in the extended danger zone must be exercised because of possibilities of sudden and hazardous phreatic eruption. Flying close to the volcano's summit must be avoided because ash from any sudden phreatic eruption can be hazardous to the aircraft. The OST PHIVOLCS is closely monitoring Mount Bulusan's activity. Several groups and individuals have filed petitions against the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. But Malacanang assures enough safeguards are in place to prevent the abuse of the controversial law. Joining us tonight is Vincent Arboleda to tell us why, live.
Diego, there are 4 petitions that were filed today at the Supreme Court questioning the legality of the Anti-Terrorism Act, which the President signed last Friday, July 3. What these petitioners are saying is that the controversial anti-terrorism law has several provisions that go against the Philippine Constitution. The first group to submit its petition is the group of lawyers and civic organizations led by Attorney Howard Calleja and former Education Secretary Armin Duistro. This is what Attorney Howard Calleja said today.
We are not fighting this government, we are fighting the constitutionality of this law. And this law should stand not only this constitution, not only this government, but should stand the governments and constitutions of our children and of our children's children. So we are fighting not only for today, but also for the future of everybody, of every Filipino.
Some of the points that Calleja's group raised are the vague definition of terrorism and the crimes considered as acts of terrorism, the conduct of a warrantless arrest, and extending the duration of the detention period of individuals under suspicion to a maximum of 24 days. Meanwhile, former DepEd Secretary Armin Duistro said that the government should be more open to criticisms.
Lalong nagiging perpekto ang administrasyon kapag handa nilang pakinggan kahit yung mga batikos dahil dyan nagagawang mas mabuti. Kapag ang netizens natin ay nagtatanggal na ng post nila, yan na ang epekto na ayaw nating mangyari.
4 Eastern University lawyers led by Attorney Mel Santamaria, Dean of the FEU Institute of Law, also filed a petition certiorari and prohibition against the Anti-Terror Act. Santamaria explained that aside from the points that Calleja pointed out, the anti-terrorism law also has an effect on the teachings in universities.
Kaya ang mga profesor, mga teacher, mga estudyante na magmumungkahi o mag-aaral lamang halimbawa ng liberation theology, halimbawa na kalakip na doon ang mga pag-uusap sa armed struggle, baka sabihin nila proposal or inciting to terrorism na yan.
Meanwhile, Albay 1st District Representative Edsel Lagman also questions several provisions of the anti-terror law, the criminalization of threat, proposal, and inciting to commit terrorism, deterring the exercise of free speech, the 90-day technical surveillance and wiretapping of communications of an individual, and the freezing of bank accounts and assets for a maximum of 6 months. The Makabayan block of the House of Representatives also filed a petition at the Supreme Court.
This will be weaponized not only against members of the progressive organization, but even members of the political opposition, ordinary individuals, maging miyembro ng media.
Representative Edsel Lagman also asked the Supreme Court to issue a temporary restraining order or a writ of preliminary injunction pending adjudication from the Supreme Court. Lagman says the law may be abused by a law enforcer or a prosecutor to silence government critics. Lagman says that the government should push for the capture and conviction of terrorists without oppressing the rights of a person to simply exercise free speech in a peaceful manner. Diego?
Yes, Vincent, what is the response of Malacanang Palace to these petitions against Republic Act number 11479?
Well, Diego, Malacanang gave its response to the issue today, saying that it will leave the decision to the Supreme Court. But presidential spokesperson Harry Roque clarified that voicing dissent against the government is not considered a crime under the controversial law. The palace also assures there are safeguards in place to prevent possible abuse of the anti-terrorism law.
Hayaan na po natin ang proseso na umusad sa ating Korte Suprema, bagamat pwede rin pong sabihin na rinirespeto po paulit-ulit ng Korte Suprema ang produkto ng mga halal na mga mambabatas. And ang general rule po is that every law passed by Congress enjoys the very heavy presumption of constitutionality.
That's our update. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Vincent Arboleda. The Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines create a board of inquiry following the Jolo Sulu incident. 9 cops are involved in the shooting that killed 4 Philippine Army members. Leah Ilagan details why.
Inspector General of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Franco Gacal, went to Camp Crame this morning to look at their operational procedures after the Jolo Sulu shooting incident, while PNP Chief Police General Archie Gamboa said they will look into the cooperation and the strategic interoperability, just like the tactical approach on the security situation in the area.
To determine operational lapses and how we can improve our operational procedures, both the AFP and the PNP.
Meanwhile, the transport of the 9 policemen involved in Jolo Sulu shooting incident to Camp Crame has been postponed. This was after one of the cops tested positive in COVID test. They are now in quarantine. He needed to undergo a swab test to know if he is COVID-19 positive. General Gamboa said Pro-Bar Director, Police Brigadier General Manuel Abu, will bring them to Camp Crame before the end of the week.
Sinabi ko lang sa kanila na you will go to Crame para ma-diffuse yung tension and then expect kung ano yung sasabihin ng NBI that hindi ako makikialam. No? So kung merong liable sa inyo, then so be it. No? But of course, for the meantime, you will be under the custody of the Philippine National Police.
The PNP chief added that last Friday, the president reminded the PNP that if the 9 policemen are proven guilty, heads will roll, while the president's message to the Philippine Army was to be calm.
Alam niya na may mga sentimento lalo na on the part of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Sabi pa nga niya na kayo, kung anong gusto niyong gawin, pwede niyong gawin, but in the end, you still have to ponder whether it will do good to the public or to the community.
Leah Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
MRT3 commuters won't be able to get their train rides tomorrow, but just temporarily. Joanano tells us why.
As resolved by the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases or IATF-EID this afternoon, MRT3 will undergo a temporary shutdown beginning tomorrow, July 7, due to an increasing number of personnel who test positive for COVID-19. Based on the Department of Transportation's update, 186 MRT3 personnel have contracted COVID-19 to date. Majority of them are depot personnel, 11 ticket sellers, 3 train drivers, 2 control center personnel, and 1 staff nurse. During the temporary shutdown, the MRT management will conduct a swab testing on more than 3,000 of its personnel. They will also hold an intensive disinfection of the depot and all train and stations.
So tayo ay para mas makapanigurado ay nagdesisyon ang IATF na padaanin sa RT-PCR o swab testing ang lahat ng ating mga personnel, hindi lang sa depot kundi pati yung sa mga stations para pag nag-resume tayo ng operations ay mas makasigurado tayo na yung mga tao natin sa linya ay negative sa COVID-19.
Actually sa ngayon wala pa tayo kasing installed na contact tracing sa MRT, no? Considering yung mga ibang nag-a-apply sa atin ng mga application ay subject for review pa din. Isa yan sa mga hakbang na pag-uusapan namin after this shutdown, kung anong mga pwede munang gawin namin contact tracing like yung ginagawa sa iba na handwritten muna.
The MRT3 personnel that have tested positive for the disease will be directed to the appropriate government quarantine facilities, while those who are confirmed negative will become part of personnel who will need to report to work upon the resumption of train operations. Out of MRT3's more than 3,200 workforce, 1,300 personnel will be required to work when the limited operations resume. Currently, 964 additional negative personnel are required before MRT3 operations could resume. Transportation officials are targeting to resume the operations of MRT3 on or before July 11, depending on the turnout of the COVID-19 testing. To help ferry commuters, the MRT3 bus augmentation program will continue along with the EDSA busway service. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's LC Marcos live from Auckland, New Zealand. LC, what have you got for us?
Good evening, William. Okay, good evening, William. William, the New Zealand government is determined to get to the bottom of a massive COVID-19 data breach here. I will also tell you why Australia closes the border between two of its most populous states and why Iranians support the government's mandatory mask order.
Go ahead, LC. Please tell us why.
Authorities here in New Zealand will probe into a massive COVID-19 privacy breach. This comes after the Herald reported the breach, which contained details of 18 confirmed COVID-19 cases, ranging from a 30-year-old woman in Auckland to a 70-year-old man in Canterbury. An urgent government inquiry has been launched to uncover exactly who did it and why COVID-19 patient details were leaked. State Services Minister Chris Hipkins has appointed former Solicitor General Mike Heron to lead the probe into the massive COVID-19 privacy breach. The Herald revealed on Saturday that the person of how it happened and why. Meanwhile, in Australia, Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews announced today the border between Australia's two most populous states will close from tomorrow, July 7, for an indefinite period. The decision marks the first time the border with neighboring New South Wales has been shut in 100 years. Officials last blocked movement between the two states in 1919 during the Spanish flu pandemic. The number of COVID-19 cases in Melbourne, Victoria's capital, has surged in recent days, prompting authorities to enforce strict social distancing orders in 30 suburbs and put 9 public housing towers into complete lockdown. The state reported 127 new COVID-19 infections overnight, its biggest one-day spike since the pandemic began. 53 of those were detected from the public housing towers. Andrews said the decision to close the border, effective from 11:59 p.m. local time on Tuesday, was made jointly with Prime Minister Scott Morrison and NSW Premier Gladys Berejiklian. Victoria's only other internal border with South Australia state is already closed. Elsewhere, in Iran, the mandatory mask order against the coronavirus epidemic has met with widespread support. The Iranian government's latest mask order, which came into force on Sunday, requires people to wear a mask both indoor and outdoor. Although the country has gradually resumed its production, its number of newly confirmed cases still remains high, with more than 2,000 newly confirmed cases every day. To curb the spread of the virus, the Iranian government has once again beefed up efforts to contain the pandemic by issuing a mandatory mask order. Some people in the country also said that the government should introduce such measures earlier so that the epidemic will be controlled sooner. However, Iran has suffered a shortage in medical supplies partially caused by long-term U.S. embargo which delayed the country to mandate wearing face masks. Iran has recently built the largest mask production plant in West Asia with the capacity for producing 2 million masks per day. Let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases in the countries most affected by the coronavirus pandemic. The United States now has more than 2.8 million confirmed positives as of today, still the top one in this tally. But it has recoveries of more than 906,000. However, Brazil, country number 2, has surpassed the USA's number of recoveries, now at more than 1 million. That's despite disagreeing sides on whether to impose lockdowns or not in Brazil. India, meanwhile, has risen up in the list, now at number 3, with close to 700,000 confirmed cases. Of the more than 11.4 million confirmed coronavirus infections in the world, more than 2.9 million are from Latin America. In other news, Florida, USA's Department of Health confirms a case of a rare brain-eating amoeba in the state. Florida's DOH said one person in Hillsborough County had contracted Naegleria fowleri, commonly found in warm, fresh water. The single-celled amoeba can cause an infection of the brain and is usually fatal. The amoeba enters the human body through the nose. Studies find the amoeba cannot be passed from person to person. The DOH did not give details where the infection was contracted or the patient's condition. Such infection is rare in Florida, where only 37 cases have been reported since 1962 based on data. Japan's meteorological agency has issued a heavy rain emergency warning in 3 prefectures as torrential downpours continued to lash southwestern Japan today. The warning was issued in Fukuoka, Saga, and Nagasaki prefecture and is the highest level of 5 on the agency's scale. Weather officials are warning residents of landslides and river floodings as heavy rain is expected to continue tomorrow. Officials also called on residents to evacuate to buildings with sturdy structures or stay on higher floors. 41 people are now confirmed dead in Kumamoto. The floods are Japan's worst natural disaster since Typhoon Hagibis in October last year that left about 90 people dead. And those are the reasons behind the news here in New Zealand and in other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Elsie, and the rest of the team. You stay safe there in New Zealand.
An international award-giving body for the youth has chosen the Masungi Geopark project as one of the top 5 finalists for the Win-Win International Youth Sustainability Award. JP Nunez details why.
With some 47,000 trees planted by its youth members to date, the Masungi Geopark project in Baras Town, Rizal Province has been shortlisted as one of the top 5 finalists for the Win-Win Sustainability Youth Award 2020. The Geopark project is the only finalist from Asia among the 358 nominees in 80 countries for the international award. According to its website, the Win-Win Youth Award aims to empower and reward young people who play an active role in the creation of a more sustainable future. Youth organizations and movements they acknowledge for their contributions have members between the age 13 to 29. For Win-Win, the Masungi Geopark project is a great example of addressing biodiversity loss. The restoration and rewilding project is led by Anne and Billy Dumaliang in the heavily degraded area in Baras.
Siguro ang panawagan lang natin ay yung patuloy na pagsuporta sa masungi ng ating authorities, ng ating gobyerno nakita natin si Secretary Simatu na pumunta dito upang i-announce yung cancellation of quarry permits. So napakaganda nun, kailangan natin ituloy yung momentum na yun.
The winner of International Youth Sustainability Award will be announced on the International Youth Day on August 12. JP Nunez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, July 6, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And I am William Theo. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Have a great evening.